We here? Yeah. I'm right back at you like I never left, and I'm gonna go this hard to my last breath. It's Lil Kenny Russell, Canoom, Consul Moon. You already know what you don't get when you step in this room. You're now dealing with Canoom. Yeah, I'm here. While I'm here, I'm gonna make the information direct and clear because a lot of y'all can't hear. Yeah. Now, welcome back to Make My Ancestor Great Again. This is another episode of My Thoughts. This is My Thoughts 235, and as the title states, the Shroud of Turin. Okay. Now, what that is a 14 by 5 foot shroud, um, and 3 feet wide that they saying this Jesus the Christ was wrapped in. Okay, we're going to get to that. Let's hear the ancestors speak, and we'll go from there.
There's one thing you have to get through your mind and keep it. Nothing that ever came from the European mind was meant to do anything but facilitate European domination of the world. And I said there's no exception.
All right. Now, a lot of debating, a lot of going back and forth in the scholarly world and the scholarly community has taken place about this fictitious cloth. Okay. I read a couple of different things and analysis and theories that people have projected, and that's all they are. They're theories. The new latest theory has made its has showed its head now, and people are marching and taking that around and making its rounds with the scholarly world, the YouTube world, the podcast world, and things of that nature. So now it's going metaverse. Okay. I seen something on the news, so it's going the news as well. Media, mass media is taking over this silliness now. Number one, if you want to disprove not only doubt and the naysayers produce the body of Jesus the Christ. But wait a minute, the European is very cunning and clever. He used devious tactics to make sure that his nonsense, he covered his tracks very well. At least he believes that. Okay. So why can't we just produce the body of Jesus the Christ? If a person is thinking like, why don't we just have his body on display or have it ever been found? Okay. Because theories about that has been found. What's the answer to that? And the European knew this. The way he wrote the story about Jesus the Christ of Nazareth is that Jesus was resurrected and he's walking around somewhere now. Okay. You're never going to be able to find his body because his body, as the Bible states, they always have to revert back to the Bible because there's no historical data or information anywhere about this gentleman other than the Gospels. The 4 Gospels, really 3, but John was added later as a Superman or comic book type of book to show that Jesus was always God the whole time. John 1:1 starts right off saying this is what it's for. And I believe it's John 20, verse 30, or John 21, verse 30. It might be First John. It says this book was written for people to believe that Jesus is God. I did that on here. I don't remember which one, but you can find that. Okay. So that's what John was produced for, to show you that Jesus the Christ was always God. But they brought it to the New Living Translation because guess what? There's never been a mention of a man named Jesus the Christ in any of the Old Testament scriptures. His name is never mentioned. You hear me, African people? So that's very key. This shroud is a forgery, a fake, like everything else associated with the name of Jesus the Christ, because Jesus the Christ is a forgery and a fake. A Greco-European God placed into the forefront of the world so that you can worship it. The European is clever. Now, they did studies on this in 1988. They dismissed it, said it only can go back to 12th or 13th century AD, without a doubt. So a lot of talks was going on. Nah, man, y'all didn't get the piece of the face. You got the end. So the end of the shroud was rewoven. See, they said it was rewoven in medieval time, and they put a new piece of shroud on there at the end to repair it. So they did another study in 2020. You see that? European is clever. The same thing happened. Okay. This was radiocarbon. The analysis were pretty much identical. Kicked it out, said dismissed it. This is from the 12th to 13th century AD. No further than that, medieval time. Now the European continued to study it, study it, study it. Now he used double EX, metrotrescoscopy, all this nonsense. What science will do is whatever you want science to do. You can find a scientist to tell you that your children aren't your children. Take blood DNA from your children, okay, that you know is your children. And one way or another, you can have a man say, hey, those are not your children, or they are your children. You can do that with science. You can disprove it because you can say, hey, I give you so much money, whatever the case may be. Make sure that I'm not the father. I know people who can do that. They have their own laboratories and things like that and say, nah, those not your kids. All the while they are, or vice versa. They're not my children, but I'm going to put a blood test to say they are your children. So the European is very cunning. He used devious tactics and tricks. They kept studying, studying, studying. Why? Until they got the answer that they wanted to hear. Now using X-ray technology and things of that nature, it dates back to the first century. That a bitch. Let's look at all this stuff. I just wanted to let you understand what we're talking about, and I give my thoughts and opinions on that. So I don't own the video; it's just a short, but you can go look and look at all this information about the Shroud of Turin. Excuse me, and you can come to your own conclusion. I know about the European and science. Science cannot prove or disprove one thing or another with certainty. But what it has certainly disproven is that the 4004 BC creation story, you can throw that in the garbage can. Anybody with a brain can understand that the planet is older than 4,000 years. 4004 BC, I'm sorry, that'd be about 6,000 years. Anybody knows that the planet is older than that because you have trees that's 10,000 years old. Let's look at this. Like, share, subscribe, comment. I thank you for watching. I don't own the video, but let's check it out.
Was Jesus really buried in this cloth?
That'd be a no right away. Was Jesus really buried in this cloth? That'd be a no because there's never been a person named Jesus. This is a bloody cloth, if I'm understanding correct, but you'll hear him say that. What DNA patterns can you take from that blood? See, they just use an X-ray to get the date proven to the first century because the European told him to do so. He wants this to be from the first century because that's when this dead white man on the cross is said to have died. So he put all his money in and kept scientifically making tests to prove that this is a first century shroud. And that's what they're talking about today, which is nonsense because it was tested twice by the same European people, 88 and 2020, and they both disregarded it for the time period. Now, 5 years later, 2025, it's always been real. So this is nonsense and foolishness. Take the blood DNA. See, they said this is a bloody shroud. Pull the blood. They did that too, and they disproved it wasn't human blood. Give me the blood and give me some type of DNA patterns and show me that that's Jesus the Christ blood. But wait a minute. The European ain't that goddamn smart. Jesus the Christ does not have a blood pattern in any type of database on the planet because he never existed. Who would you compare it to? Do you have his mother, Jesus, Mother Mary? No. Do you have his so-called earthly father, Joseph? No. Do you have his brother named James, James the Lesser? No. So what type of DNA pattern, if this is a bloody shroud, what would you compare his DNA to? See, they know that the world is too clever for that, but they still put this fast one on you because they're clever to simple-minded people. Let's continue, African people. Catch all this stuff that I'm saying, okay? These are just my thoughts and opinions, but this is the way I conclude with this nonsense that they try to put forth into the world. You hear me? Let's continue.
Scientists have uncovered new evidence that could support the theory that the body of Christ was wrapped in this ancient linen cloth.
Now, scientific evidence has been used now to try to prove this theory. See, this man is clever with his words and he knows exactly what he's saying. These are scientific theories. Science cannot prove or disprove anything definitively unless you have a dead body and they say, hey, man, he scientifically died around this time. Okay. If you believe in science and this is supposed to be some dead white man on the cross who died and woke up, how can you believe that science found this shroud, but scientifically, the man who's supposed to be wrapped in it isn't there? What does science say about that? One man that ever come through the planet, when billions of people have passed through this planet, this is the only man in scientific history that got up from the grave and walked off. If you deal with science, then you're smarter than that. This man right here that they're speaking about has defied all rules of scientific analysis. He's walked on water. He's raised the dead. He's given fish. He did all this. You mean to tell me scientists can sit here and go on with this charade for money? That's what they're doing. Only thing they're doing is what the European told them to do. Make sure you bring me some type of scientific test that dates this to the 1st century. That's all I need. And he said, yes, sir. And that's what they came up with. Okay. Now, if you believe in science, like I say, that would disprove this. Science itself would disprove this. But you can believe in science on this, but you can't believe in science. Where's the scientific proof of his life? You don't have that. But you have scientific proof that you have this shroud that the Bible said this is. And you say, no, this is what the Bible said it is. If you're going to be scientists all the way through. Show me the scientific proof of his life. You can't do it. You can show me the scientific proof of a 1st century shroud that say that some dead white man on the cross was supposed to be wrapped in it. It's a damn shame. Let's continue.
Now, while this might sound like something from Indiana Jones,
That belongs in a museum.
the garment known as the Shroud of Turin is actually one of Christianity's most holy relics, and it's claimed to be stained with an impression of the body of Christ following his crucifixion. For centuries,
This right here, excuse me, I'll explain that later.
experts have debated whether or not the imprint really is that of Jesus' body, and now there's a new
This is the one I want to speak about. Jesus is said to have been 30 years old when he died. Look at that imprint. I don't care if he's beaten and battered and bruised. If I died today, I would not look that old. This looked like a 65-plus-year-old dead white man on the cross, or European man. If you want to say Middle Eastern, it was no such thing as the Middle East. This is another clue. Science has proved, they used William Foxwell Albright initially, that the Dead Sea Scrolls came from the 1st century. Very clever, right? Because that's when Jesus the Christ was walking around. But guess what? They have a Balfour Act, I believe it's William Balfour, in 1948. The scrolls was found at the same time that when the Middle East was created, they gave Ashkenazi Jews from Germany, people from Russia, Hasidic Jews, Sephardic Jews, they gave them that homeland because basing the Dead Sea Scrolls found in 1948, they said that the Ashkenazi, the German and the Russian Jews were the original owners of the homeland. based on the Dead Sea Scrolls, dated by William Foxwell Albright, a Christian or a religious archaeologist. Very clever, right? Remember the Balfour Act, 1948. That's when they got the homeland. That's when they took Israel and Jerusalem and all this and gave it to the Jews. Hasidic, Sephardim, Ashkenazi, and Sephardic. So if you're going to believe science, it's very coincidental that they did that at the same time. This is being put forth out here so they don't just throw that shroud out. See, they want that shroud to be significant, and it was never going to be significant. This right here looks like a 65 plus years old man. Look at that. I don't care how you beat him. A 30-year-old man would never look like this. Let's continue.
Twist to the tail. Measuring about 4.4 metres long and 1.1 metres wide, the shroud bears the faint image of a bearded crucified man, along with bloodstains matching the wounds suffered by Jesus as described in the Bible.
As described in the Bible. Again, if you have the blood, retrieve the blood, put it in the database, you will never find it. Prove to me the life of this. They're not going to do that. They're just going to prove that the shroud is from the year they said it is. That's not scientific to me. That's coincidental, and you want it to be what you want it to be, so you're trying to force it. Prove life. When you notice, it's a freaky thing about the European people in the Bible. They never prove the life. They just prove what the Bible say. In case of Noah, they never found Noah or anybody that's attributed or go with the story of Noah, but they found Noah's Ark, so to speak. They don't have, excuse me, they don't have any King David, Solomon, but they believe these are the grounds of Solomon Temple. You hear me? They don't have Jesus the Christ body, but they say this is the shroud that he was wrapped in, put forth and said by the Bible.
Image is a front and back view of a naked man whose hands are folded across his groin, both of which face away from each other. But is it real? Well, like many other relics, this has been debated since its discovery. But in the last 50 years, the conversation has been taken over by science.
It better have been taken over by science, because just duping that 4G up in front of people who can think, and you already had it tested twice, 1988 and 2020. And they came with the exact same analysis that it only can date back to medieval time, 12th to 13th century AD. Now you put forth some EX, metro prescoscopy, all this nonsense, and you say now, oh no, we put the X-rays and we know cloth fiber from the first century, and this is first century because the Bible said so. This is the European being cunning, devious, and good at his work. But don't let that fool you, because it's a fraud and a fake. You don't have to prove relics and artifacts. You have to prove life with life. That's my thoughts on the video. It's Lil Kenny Russell, Canoom, Consul Moon. You already know what you're going to give me. Step in this room. You're now dealing with Canoom. This is what I do, and I love to do it. And before I take back what I said, I add some more to it. Every step of the way, when you say, hey, man, where's Adam and Eve? They don't bring you nothing about Adam and Eve, but they might say, we found the Garden of Eden where they said the story was based. We found that actual base point. Hey, man, where is Solomon? Where is Saul? We don't find no Saul, but we found a knife that Saul might have held. Where the hell is Pontius Pilate, man? We don't have no Pontius Pilate, but we have the Pilate stone. That a bitch. Prove life with life. I don't want artifacts in the face of proving life. Give me life when you're discussing life. Like, share, subscribe, comment. And I thank you for watching. If you feel like you want to do something for me, like and subscribe, because it won't cost you a fee. Education and preparation is the first step to retaliation. So before you pick up a weapon or a silly religion, pick up some knowledge. You have to be skilled in historical analysis and historical history before you let them pull over stuff like this on you. There's never historically been a man named Jesus the Christ in the history of the world. That's a fact. Okay. If anybody's offended by anything you heard, I mean every word. Yeah, yeah. See y'all tomorrow.